Ah, welcome. So nice of you to come. Please have a seat. My name is Andreas, and I'm one of the world's leading Rooneyologists with quadruple degrees from Oxford, Cambridge, Trump University, and Hogwarts College of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Go Hufflepuff! Accordingly, the topic of today's lecture is Ms. Rooney's new book, Beautiful World, Where Are You? After conversations with friends where a very thin, intelligent, sarcastic, bisexual, unpleasant woman who never eats has man trouble, and normal people where a very thin, intelligent, sarcastic, bisexual, unpleasant woman who never eats has boy trouble, we have this new book where a very thin, intelligent, sarcastic, bisexual, unpleasant, wealthy woman who never eats has boy trouble. So let's dive right in and look at what we have here, going through the book chapter by chapter and remarking on what is important, what jumps out into the face, like a face hugger, so to speak. We begin with a Tinder date between one of the heroines, a successful, thin, intelligent, and so on, a writer who has moved to the Atlantic coast of Ireland to rent a big house to sit in, maybe write a new novel. It's hard to know. She meets a boy or a young man who works in a warehouse on a Tinder date, but they don't try to be charming, witty, or sexy. They just exchange information. It's not a very pleasant encounter, which you would maybe expect from a first date. And this is a frequent occurrence with these kinds of characters in these books. They're quite grating, like human cheese graters. And, mm, you know, it's okay if some characters in books are unpleasant or even monstrous, as long as you're still entertained. If you take, say, Humbert in Lolita, he's a monster, yes, of course, but he's also quite cunning, um, charming in his own ways, has a great way with words. So he is monstrous, yes, but he's entertaining. But these people, it's quite unpleasant reading about most of their interactions, or at least some of their interactions. So it can become somewhat of a slog, going going through this, and it's hard to know where the author is going here. Surely not everybody in life is an unpleasant person. Surely there are nice persons who can have nice conversations about nice chit chat, asking about the family, the dogs, things like that. Lighten up a bit. Anyway, they meet for this Tinder date, and it doesn't go too well, but still, after 3 or 4 drinks, they go to her house, which is quite big. And then they fail to make love. So we've already set up a problem, we've already checked the "it's complicated" box, because that is a prerequisite here. And that concludes chapter 1 for us. Then there are a lot of chapters with these emails the main female characters write to each other. Apart from Alice, the writer, there's also Eileen, who is working as an editor or office assistant at a literary magazine, and they are writing these emails to each other, informing each other about their lives and musing about different topics under the sun. But these these topics are often quite disconnected from the narrative. They're just dumped here like opinion dumps of the author. There are some good ideas in here, but there's little connection felt to what happens in the rest of the novel, or these opinions don't seem to really inform what the characters are doing day to day. It's not like in, say, The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera, where the narrator muses about taking the bathroom door off the hinges if you have nothing to hide, or how people feel this, as the title of the novel says, this unbearable lightness of being. So they try to add some weight, some heft to it by falling in love, or thinking they're falling in love, or sacrificing themselves. And this is, of course, very connected to the narrative of the novel. But here, for example, here you have um, quite quite good idea, I would say. Let me just read a few lines here in this email from Alice to Eileen. I've been thinking lately about right-wing politics, haven't we all? And how it is that conservatism, the social force, came to be associated with rapacious market capitalism. The connection is not obvious, at least to me, since markets preserve nothing but ingest all aspects of an existing social landscape and excrete them, shorn of meaning and memory, as transactions. What could be conservative about such a process? And this is quite a good observation. The marriage of modern center-right conservatism to neoliberal capitalism is a one-sided or unhappy one, because this neoliberal globalized capitalism obviously destroys everything these conservatives supposedly hold dear, like the nuclear family, like traditional associations to churches or trade organizations. And it fosters more immigration, which conservatives are against, and so on and so on. These are topics worth exploring, but they're just dumped in here and then forgotten in the rest of the novel. So we're left to wonder what this is all about, except that the author wanted to inform us about her well-considered opinions on things. Oh no, I mean the characters, of course, the characters. So then, in this is chapter 2. In chapter 3, we have well, a description of Eileen, our second heroine. She is also thin, intelligent, sarcastic, and so on, but not wealthy, and she has dark hair, um, different from Alice, who has fair hair. So clearly a big difference already here. I'm sure there are others. And then there are all throughout the book all these quite long descriptions of quite pedestrian day-to-day activities, which the characters are doing, which of course we can all relate to on a superficial level. Let me just read here. From the fridge, the woman removed a bowl covered in cling film. She disposed of the cling film and put the bowl in a microwave. We've all done this, obviously, and can in that fashion relate to it. And I suppose it advances the plot a little bit, but apart from that, it doesn't convey much information, and there are a lot of passages like this. In chapter 1, for example, Alice is looking for her key for a long time, has to turn on her phone torch to find it in her handbag. All nice and normal, I guess, but it's not, in my opinion, really adding strong texture or a strong realism to the book. It just recitals of stuff or things which don't create any real emotions. Anyway, the rest of the chapter is a description of Eileen's life. She was bullied at school, but then became a star at university. Stop me if you've heard this before, and maybe in some other study Rooney novels, and then she met Alice at university, and they basically mind melded. Now the next chapter is again one of these emails. Here the info dumps of Wikipedia start. This is about the supposed collapse of a Bronze Age Mediterranean society which was flourishing between 1225 to 1150 before Christ, and then it supposedly vanished completely. And this is just a Wikipedia info dump, supposed to say something profound, maybe about today's society or something. Please don't take your history from Wikipedia. It's atrocious. Look at a real history book, or better several, to find out what really happened. Because even historians don't sometimes really know. But I will put it down in books. And all this nuance will most often not be on Wikipedia. This ends the public service announcement. And it ends chapter 4. Now, here in chapter 5, Alice is examining apples one by one in the supermarket. Who does that? And gets seen by Felix, and because he takes pity on her or something, he invites her to his party. At his party, they find out that she's a famous and wealthy writer who even has her own Wikipedia page. It's a bit embarrassing, and then they go out for a smoke, and she invites him to accompany her on a interview and public reading trip to Rome. And he says, I'm coming. Sure. Why not? Gotta have a foreign retreat in a Sally Rooney book. It's nothing if you're not absconding to foreign continental lands. The next chapter, again, one of these letters where Alice complains about her fame, her fortune, the interview she has to do, the intrusion into her private life. And there's also a Wikipedia info dump about Linear B, a supposedly lost language or something. Well, I'm sure it's all very terrible. When she has to dry her tears with €100 bills, and still the tears won't stop. It's all quite terrible. Yeah, makes one feel with these poor, globally famous, successful souls who've made it for life. Oh well. Then next, what do we have here? This chapter is actually not too bad. Eileen does a work thing, and then she calls this other man, Simon, some handsome man who has his life in order and is even devoutly Catholic, and she has phone sex with him, and it's even comparatively quite sexy, and done comparatively well, I would say. Even though the fantasy here is that Eileen imagines how Simon's wife would be, how she would be very devoted, almost virginal, and really doing everything to make him happy, painting a kind of a quite retrograde picture of married life. Just because you have a little ring, it doesn't mean you're giving up your whole personality or regressing into some kind of 50s Don Draper or Betty Draper persona. Just food for thought. Then again, letter with a critique of identity politics this time, which is not too bad, but it becomes hard to know whether Alice or Eileen is writing this. The thoughts seem to bleed into each other and seem to come with the same voice. So maybe it's just Alice writing all these letters to herself, and maybe she invented the whole character of Eileen to amuse herself. That could be a nice twist. Let's see. Haven't finished the book yet. Maybe it will happen. Hope springs eternal. Apropos eternal. The eternal city, Rome. One of the most beautiful cities in the world and also one of the more chaotic ones. But you wouldn't know it from this book. There's little sense of place here. It's quite anodyne in its descriptions. It's just ticking off a few landmarks and descriptions of them ring hollow. And even when back in Ireland, a country, to my opinion, with a quite strong sense of place, a quite distinct culture, this it feels like it could be set anywhere in any kind of modern Western city or place. Maybe this is intentional, but maybe this is just not one of the strengths of this author to make you feel like you're really at the place the characters are at. And you would think this would be easy in freaking Rome, Roma Eterna, Roma Invicta, the once navel of the world, where there's the St. Peter's Cathedral, the Fontana di Trevi, a lot of pizzerias, a lot of things you could have a lot of fun with, but these people don't have a lot of fun. They're looking at their phones. They're listening to the music on their headphones. Listen to some cries of Roman drivers instead, maybe. And thus concludes Chapter 9. Chapter 10. Alice and Eileen, or Aline and Alice, are talking about beauty and how humanity has lost the instinct for beauty. Here, Alice is writing, I think you're wrong about the instinct for beauty. Human beings lost that when the Berlin Wall came down. I'm not going to get into another argument with you about the Soviet Union, but when it died, so did history. I think of the 20th century as one long question, and in the end we got the answer wrong. Aren't we unfortunate babies to be born when the world ended? After that there was no chance for the planet, and no chance for us. Now, which part of the Soviet Union exactly are we talking here about? The Stalinist purges, the Holodomor, the forced relocation of industry to the east during the Second World War, more purges and murders, hunger, mismanagement, scleroticism, the technological backwardness, the ever-present danger of nuclear annihilation, omnipresent surveillance, or at least a feeling of it, by the KGB, and then the collapse of this empire, which could not hold together anymore because it was economically so far behind times, politically completely calcified, had no money, no way to get out of the hole it had dug itself into. So, what is exactly admirable here? I would like to know what exactly do these characters like so much about the Soviet Union, and why do they deplore its end and think the wrong side won the Cold War? I think this is all, as in the previous books of Stanley Rooney, a whole lot of performative Marxism, which is really not reflected in the rest of the narrative. Like they're not organizing worker collectives or trying to to build up a kind of kibbutz or something. They're not even trade union organizers or something. They're just saying they're Marxist and that capitalism is bad, but continuing their lives of munching on bread sandwiches, flying to Rome and wherever, and enjoying the amenities modern life gives them. Uh, they're feeling a little bit bad about it, but you might expect some little more resistance, at least voting for the communists or something, instead of just saying you're Marxist and leaving it at that as the greatest expression of your rebellion. And then in this same letter, there's then more griping about the modern literature scene, modern novels, how they how novels about love and relationships are built on obscuring the reality of the modern world, which exists on a lot of slavery and exploitation of man and nature. To which I would say two things. Firstly, if you don't like the literature scene, do a J.D. Salinger, write one famous book, and then disappear. Just don't show up in public. What you gonna do? Go to a cabin somewhere. Enjoy your wealth. It's possible. Or do a George R.R. Martin, just go to the things you like and hang around there and then forget writing anything anymore. George. Or talk about this underbelly. Talk about this hidden side. Talk about this child in the cellar in Omelas. Have the characters try to organize something to help some seamstresses in Bangladesh, or have them travel to places where they see the exploitation of nature firsthand. Some dump of Western electronics in the Gambia, for example. Have them travel there instead of Rome, for example. There's lots of possibilities. The pages are empty at the beginning. You can put any words you like on them. You're not forced to write about love and relationships only. You can stretch yourself, you know? Well, then in the next chapter, Eileen feels a bit sad, pining about her ex. And then she goes to visit Simon, wakes him up, and he takes her in because he's just such a friendly and handsome man who has his life in order and needs to fix up these broken and lost women. Um, like a number of male Rooney characters are doing. And then they have sex, which is nice, I would say. And then they go to church afterwards, and she likes it. She likes his earnest devotion, his earnest praying, how seriously he takes everything, despite God obviously being nonsense in her opinion, and then kind of pines for the security and the orientation in life his faith seems to give Simon. Now, this does feel a bit like the first step to some kind of radicalization. It feels like one of these children who looked at some ISIS propaganda videos and thought, oh, they have the clarity of purpose. They have the goal we are lacking in today's Western world. This is so attractive to me. I'm going to camp off to Syria because surely it will be greater than the UK. But as you can see, there are multiple faults in this kind of thinking. So you would expect these intelligent characters to be able to look behind that and not be taken so much by even earnest faith, which they are approaching like they've never seen it before, like they've never seen earnestly faithful people before. In Ireland, Oh, what is this now? In this letter, Eileen describes what she experienced with Simon, the church visit, and the next chapter is again Addis and Felix still in Rome. Felix fixes the shower, which won't turn off. Then, after an awkward moment, they make confessions. She eats barely anything. They have sex. And then this chapter is over. It's feeling a bit of like a slog at this point. So hopefully Rooney will take her character's advice to heart and write about something more than just love and relationships. Why not space elevators? You can still have relationships while you're riding on a space elevator to an orbital station from which you can launch to the first missions to establish a Mars colony. That could be something interesting. And if you have relationship problems in orbit, it's hard for you to escape, to get away. And you can't look at your phone that much while you're in orbit because you're very busy keeping the rocket flying around and the orbital station working. This could spice the things quite a lot. Just a suggestion how to liven this up a bit, huh? Think about it.